All right, in this discussion, we're going to examine a common supplementation program for stocker cattle called Oklahoma Gold. And we're going to use this as an as an example to talk about how to think about supplementation in grazing systems. Recall that the goal of supplementation is to balance the available energy and protein in the forage so that the cattle can make full use of the forage, right? We're trying to get a TDN to crude protein ratio of 6 to 7 to 1, so 6 or 7 to 1, somewhere in that range is what we're trying to do. We're just trying to bring balance to the forage, okay? So this type of forage that we talked about previously is pretty close to being in balance. There's not too much nor too little protein in this kind of forage, and so the cattle are able to make full use of the nutrients that are available to them in this forage. But it's not always the case like that. So this is a typical forage quality curve over the summer for tall grass native range in Oklahoma. In May, you can see here that the forage is pretty high in nutritive value. The TDN can be up close to almost in the high 60s, almost 70% TDN, and the crude protein value can be 13 or 14%. Crude protein, so that's pretty high nutritive value. And if you took a TDN in the mid 70s, crude protein of 12%, something like that, the TDN to crude protein ratio would be about 5 to 1 in this scenario. So here there's plenty of nitrogen available in this forage, right? There's no need for a protein supplement in this forage in May, right? As time goes on, the forage decreases in nutritive value. The TDN, energy value, decreases. Crude protein does as well. Crude protein actually goes down faster than TDN. It goes down at a faster rate. This results in July, we have a TDN to crude protein ratio of maybe 8 to 1. So now this forage is getting out of balance, right? Already by July, the cattle can't use all of the energy that's available in this forage because there's not enough protein available. If you go all the way out to September, the problem is even exacerbated, right? You get out to September, you're getting 9 and 10 to 1 TDN to crude protein ratios. Forage is very out of balance. So we've got to fix that with a protein supplement, okay? So in the early spring, stocker calves often gain at excellent rates. Usually they can exceed 2 pounds per day. However, that rapidly declines to where they're gaining less than 1 pound a day in the late summer. And this is because that forage has less available energy in it and because the forage is out of balance, right? The low protein restricts the ability of the microbes to extract energy from the forage, and it also decreases the ability of the animal to eat enough forage. So something to keep in mind is that cattle performance can't exceed the level allowed by the most limiting nutrient. In late summer, for stocker cattle on warm season perennial grasses, that limiting nutrient is protein. Okay. So here's the solution. This is a supplementation program concept that was developed at Oklahoma State University, and it's called the Oklahoma Gold Program. Okay, and it's the name that's the name that was given to this practice of providing stocker cattle with 1 pound per day of a supplement containing 37 to 41% crude protein from an all-natural source. All right, that kind of describes the Oklahoma Gold Program. This amount of supplemental protein basically alleviates the protein restriction that we talked about on the previous slide, and it allows the rumen microbes to take full advantage of the energy that's in the forage. Okay, the digestibility of the forage increases when we provide this supplemental protein, and so each bite of grass provides more energy. The forage clears out of the rumen faster, so the animal can eat more forage. Right, so there's a win-win here. Basically, this Oklahoma Gold 1 pound per head per day of a 37 to 41% crude protein supplement brings summer native range back into balance. Okay. So Oklahoma Gold I said was developed at Oklahoma State University. It's typically based on an oilseed meal. Cottonseed meal works great and is often the most cost effective. Soybean meal can work great too. But a lot of ingredients could be used as long as they provide the nutrients that we need, specifically the crude protein and the nitrogen that's available in that crude protein. Okay. Oklahoma Gold also contains an ionophore, typically monensin, which is a feed additive. We could talk about that later, but that just further improves the efficiency of this feeding program. But you can kind of see here what a typical Oklahoma Gold supplement would look like. It's in this case it's 86% crude protein or 86% cottonseed meal, and so it's mostly cottonseed meal, providing that high level of crude protein. This is what it takes to bring that forage back into balance. So let's look what effects do we see from feeding Oklahoma Gold? Well, we see pretty dramatic effects. Okay, in this example, cattle were fed Oklahoma Gold starting in mid-August. The control cattle with no supplement gained 0.83 pounds per day, so that's pretty low rate of gain, while cattle that were fed the Oklahoma Gold supplement gained 1.32 pounds per day. So that's an additional half a pound of average daily gain, an additional half pound of body weight gain per day. And remember, that came from 1 pound of supplement. Okay, so the conversion rate of that supplement was effectively 2 to 1. The cattle took 1 pound of supplement and added a half a pound of gain. So the supplement conversion there is 2 to 1. That's extremely efficient. This super high efficiency makes this program, this supplementation program, is generally very cost effective. Okay. So ranchers often ask if there are other ways to achieve these same results. Are there other ways to bring balance into the TDN and crude protein ratio of this forage? And there's certainly different ways you can do that. Another option that was developed is another program, kind of a follow-up program, was called Oklahoma Super Gold. And Super Gold is very similar to Oklahoma Gold, but it uses 2.5 pounds per day of a 25% crude protein supplement. And cattle that are fed Oklahoma Super Gold get about the same amount of protein that Oklahoma Gold would provide, but they also get a significant amount of energy supplement from the supplement. Because we're feeding more pounds of feed every day. Now we're feeding 2.5 pounds a day instead of just 1 pound a day. So that's kind of the difference between Oklahoma Gold and Oklahoma Super Gold. You can see Oklahoma Super Gold gives you flexibility in the different kinds of commodities that you can use. Byproducts like distillers grains and corn gluten feed work well in this program, so that makes it sometimes pretty popular. The average daily gain response in cattle is a little more than the average daily gain response that we see in Oklahoma Gold, but Super Gold isn't quite as efficient. The conversion rate is not quite as high. So depending on each rancher's situation and the price of commodities, either one can be quite profitable, right? So depending on the different scenarios that you might look at, Oklahoma Gold might fit one scenario better, and then another time, Oklahoma Super Gold might be a more cost-effective way to go about supplementation. So that's kind of a summary of how you can use a specific supplement to achieve this TDN to crude protein balance that we're talking about. And you notice here that in this scenario with Oklahoma Gold, we weren't necessarily trying to make the cattle gain some X number of pounds per day. We weren't trying to make them gain 3 pounds or 4 pounds per head per day. All we were doing with the supplement is just providing the supplement so that we get the maximum out of the forage that we can get. Whatever's in the forage, we want to get it. And so that's how we kind of chose the amount of supplement that we were chose the type and the amount that we're doing there. So in the next video, we're going to discuss how we can estimate the profitability of some of these different supplementation programs that you might consider. Thanks. We'll see you on the next one.